what's going to be happening on the show?
I mean, it's funny. You answer the same question enough times, and you start to be able to boil it down. At the beginning of the day, we were like, well, it's a world of... I'm going to boil it down to, this is about a marriage that has a fundamentally, philosophically different set of answers to the question, how do we get our son back? With whom should we ally ourselves? And how much of our souls are we willing to sell in exchange for our son? And
what
their
happened
spaceship.
to the sun?
We don't really know. All we know at the beginning is we've been separated from him. So when the wall came down around our colony in LA, he was on the other side.
And ultimately, it's a human story about the incongruency of trying to live life the way it was before your world was ripped away, and what does that do to your humanity? How far will you go for your loved ones? And what are the consequences of that? Do you resist and face the consequences, or do you collaborate and move in that direction? And what is right and what is wrong? These are huge questions we ask every day. And we're in the middle of that now. I mean, occupation is happening now across the world. People are being occupied, new governments installed. This is an old human story with a new enemy.
So they're being manipulated to working for the occupation because their son is at risk?
Not them.
There are ways of trying to get people back.
Yes.
One of them is collaboration.
Yes, and ultimately, it's not just collaboration. My guy's an ex-FBI manhunter. He wants answers about it all. And how better to get an answer? Get on the inside. So there's different perspectives from which they play and different journeys they're on, but ultimately the same end is what they're seeking. Reunite their family, preserve their love, their humanity, and ultimately survive the struggle of the human race. So,
what sparked your interest? Why this show?
Storytelling. It was obvious to me when I read the script. I was hooked right away from the questions it posed, the weight of the story, the place I am in my life. I have 2 children. I've been married. I've been with my wife. Well, we've been together 17 years, so we understand a long-term relationship and what that is, marriage, and how far I'd go for my children and my wife. These are very relevant questions to me. She understands she's in the same.
Yeah, we're in the same boat.
Yeah.
I mean, there's something I think interesting. We're in a very divisive moment in, I think, our sort of global cultural history, right? We're drawing all these lines between men and women and Arabs and Jews and Muslims and Christians. The whole, everybody's obsessed with drawing these lines based around our identities. And I think what's interesting to me is the idea that as soon as that wall comes down, it's possible that everybody on the inside goes, oh, we're people. We're people, and our humanity, our identity as human beings is actually more vital and more unifying than we ever kind of imagined. And that now that we have an external enemy, and that line is drawn very substantially with literally a wall around our colony, I think there's an opportunity for people to develop new relationships with one another. I'm interested in exploring that right now because I'm a little bit heartbroken by the ways in which we've chosen to decide that we're all different from one another instead of all a bunch of beating hearts struggling with our neuroses in the dark. Which is, quite frankly, I think probably closer to the truth.
Describe me perfectly.
Yeah, I know. Right? Beating hearts. Sitting in the dark being like, I hope I'm not fucking it all up.
So if your son wasn't missing, would you guys just kind of sit back and do what you had to do to survive, or would you still be on that side of...
That's such a good question.
Good question.
Because I think this is a philosophical show in that these are people with strong opinions about the situation of being occupied.
Yes.
Or not roll over and take it people.
No, I think there would still be a story there even without that. There would be as interesting of a story. It's just that it's just is big. Adds a lot of weight to the situation and immediacy to the situation.
But it also adds, I think, another moral level, which is to say, as a parent, to fight for a larger cause, if that cause endangers you and then means your children could be alone, there's a different moral element to that, right? Like, it's easy, it's, without children, it's one thing to say, I'm going to stand up and fight, and if they kill me, they kill me. Mm-hmm. But to then walk out of the house and say, yeah, and you kids, you're on your own, peace out.
Yeah,
It adds a different
them.
level of, somebody has leverage over you.
Yes.
Our own lives might not actually mean that to us, that much to us, but the lives of our children.
Thank you.